Okay, hi, I'm Father Anthony Hannon. This is To Prepare His Way, and welcome to the live stream, Sunday evening, October the 22nd, 2023. I just published a video on the To Prepare His Way channel, and it was called Group Unity and Individual Freedom. And I'd like to make a couple clarifications and expand on that a little bit and talk about a few other things, and then whatever might come up in the chat. So we'll see how that comes out. So I see, excuse me, I see that Christine Bartlett is in the chat. So welcome, Christine. And she says, good video. I guess she watched the premiere. Thank you very much. And the reason, Father John Brown, SJ, great to have you on board. If anyone is not subscribed to Father John Brown, SJ, YouTube, it's worthwhile going there. He says he can't stay long in the chat, and that's fine. Thanks for checking in, and hopefully this won't be as long as my live streams have been. And Helen O'Connor is checking in as well, so that's great. And you can always come back later and then play it back at 1.5 speed or whatever. So sorry. Psalm 37 Rocks is in the chat. Was your video in reference to the Mortal Synod? No, but it could apply to that. The video was, if you watched it, I'm not sure if you did or not, but it's just kind of a general principle about group dynamics and how to keep the focus on and not to splinter the groups and that type of thing. And I will go into a little bit more explanation of that in this live stream here. So there you go. Right on. Glad to have a few watching now. So that's really great. So the idea with group unity and individual freedom is that we're all different. Eh? We're all different. Every individual is different, and if we're going to be successful in a group, that we ought to keep our focus on the common purpose. And I've mostly this wisdom comes from the various 12-step groups. They have 12 steps for individual recovery. Then they have 12 traditions for the group dynamics, the running of the group, this type of thing. One of the things they say that the group as a whole has no opinion on outside issues. That does not mean that individuals do not have opinions on outside issues or other interests or anything like that. That's not what it's about. But when they get together for their meetings, they're going to focus on that particular purpose, which everyone has in common. And if they want to grow the group, they want to keep the focus on that, even though, the start of a group, there may be, 3 or 4 or 5 individuals, and besides the stated purpose of that 12-step group, they may have some other common interests, but for the purpose of that group, they're going to stick with the particular purpose. So, for example, Alcoholics Anonymous, their stated common purpose is to help alcoholics, and that's it. So in Alcoholics Anonymous, even though it doesn't always play out this way, they try to refrain from talking about other addictions. They try to stick to just their alcohol dependency and how they get sober, how they get and stay sober. And the reason is because not everyone is doubly or triply addicted to different substances. Many are, but the common purpose is to help the alcoholic who still suffers. So that's what they come together for. Now, as you know, I'm a Catholic priest, and us Catholics, especially when we're very committed to our faith, we want to share all the good things that we have in the practice of our faith, and we want others to come to know Jesus and to enter into full communion in the Catholic Church and whatnot. And it's very difficult for many of us, speaking for myself, way back when, very difficult to understand that that's not the purpose of the group. So someone, I might have gone to meetings and talked about my religion. Now it's okay to share my own hope, strength, hope, and experience, they say. That's okay. That's a good thing to do. But keep in mind what we all have in common in the group. So someone might come up after the meeting and say, thanks for sharing or whatever, and welcome. Well, by the way, we don't talk about religion here in this group. And then I get offended, and then I'm like, well, these people are like anti-Catholic or something like that. That's not what it's about. But similarly, I've been in groups where people come and they talk about other types of abuse or their sexual orientation or something like that. That's not the purpose of the group. So they should not be talking about that. Should not be criticizing or praising any particular political party or talking about. Okay. Sorry about the buffering there. I don't know what was missed, but in current events right now, the reason this topic comes up of group unity and individual freedom is within the freedom movement. As you know, going back to the truckers' convoy, well, excuse me, way before that, going back to Canada Day in 2020, I've been involved in the freedom movement, going and lending my spiritual and moral support to anyone involved in that and speaking up and resisting the tyrannical moves and overreach by the various levels of government and unelected officials as well, as you all know. And so various groups have been started up to try to network and all of this. And I've noticed that some groups they start splintering off because everyone is trying to make sense of the world around us, and some everyone brings their particular insight, but every opinion is, well, let me put it this way: two contradictory opinions cannot be true, not at the same time, right? So if someone gets into a freedom group and the common purpose is to try to understand the tactics of various elites and to resist the totalitarianism, and but so that might be a common purpose, that we can see the lie and we're going to support each other and not cooperating with the lie, how to resist. But then someone will come and say, well, it's a spiritual battle. So they want to come in and they want to say, say, for example, I might come in and say, it's a spiritual battle. We should start every meeting with this prayer to Saint Michael. And, understand that there's going to be a whole bunch of people there that do not pray to saints. And they're not going to be on the same page. Now, if I want to start a group that is, resistance plus that, then fine. It'll be a much smaller group. And but that's going to be the stated purpose. We're Catholics who are engaging in the spiritual battle, and we might get together and we might pray the Rosary. We might, pray Saint Michael prayer. We might look at the different issues. But in that first group, it would be better to just stick with the common purpose. Similarly, there's been freedom groups because people are where they're at, and they have various opinions, mistaken though they might be, who will at a freedom group start criticizing the Catholic Church, saying that the Catholic Church is corrupt, and well, there are corrupt individuals in the church. There's no doubt about it, and I can talk about that in this live stream as well. But some will come and say the Catholic Church is demonic and the Pope is the Antichrist and all of this type of thing. Well, that's not helping, and that's going to splinter the group, because a devout Catholic is not going to stick around in that type of group. So that's the idea. So I just said in that video that stick to the common purpose, and the more simple, or I might say the more broad it is, then the larger it can be. And then when in the group, each individual ought to consider before they speak, is this something that that is in line with our common purpose, and that can unite us and not divide us. Okay? And so that's basically it. A good example of a group that is handling this quite well is Camille El-Sheikh's leadership for the Million March for Children. And you can go to his official website, which is handsofourkids.ca, and maybe I'll type that in a few minutes. And on that website, it states exactly what their purpose is. Let me see. Our mission. See, so here it is. Our mission is to unite people for a noble cause, to safeguard children from gender ideology teachings, sexual indoctrination, exposure to explicit sexual contact, ensuring that parental consent remains paramount. We will protect our children from thought control and will ensure their religious freedoms are protected. We firmly believe that the government should respect the rights of parents, and schools should focus on subjects that prepare children for their future. So that's their stated purpose. And then they even have a shorter one. What is the mission of Hands Off Our Kids? Hands Off Our Kids is a grassroots movement dedicated to safeguarding parental rights and advocating for the removal of intrusive elements of sexual orientation and gender ideology from the educational system. They emphasize the importance of transparency in education. So anyone who reads that and agrees with it, you can count yourself as belonging to that group. You see, within the freedom movement, for example, there have been attempts to get Christian leaders together, and early on, I remember it must have been in I think it was the fall of 2020, and I was down at Queen's Park in Toronto. And that was the first time that Randy Hilliard got any tickets. He was trying to get some tickets so that he could have some standing in court. And finally that day he did. That was the day that I met Sister Maria Francis, and so some of you may remember her, and you can look at the videos. It's called Sister Maria Francis Tells It Like It Is. And I was so happy to see a co-religious there at this freedom demonstration. That was also the day that I went over to Adamson's Barbecue, where the Toronto police had their mounted police down there and recklessly rode their horses through the crowd. And thank God nobody was hurt at that time. And I went down there and I interviewed Martin from Ireland, and there's great insights in there. So, if you haven't checked out those videos, you can do that later. And again, if they're a little bit long for you, just play them back at 1.5 speed or something like that. I don't want people wasting their time. But I think, Martin and Sister Maria Francis had some great insights. And so anyway, what was my point with that? I have to replay my own live stream so I can see what my point was. Sorry, sorry about that. Guess I'm getting old or something. Anyway, I'll just kind of carry on. Um, oh yes, so that was the day that I met. I think I might have met Mike Thiessen, who's a Protestant pastor, and who approached me. I think I was in my cassock. There are people who knew me there from the YouTube channel and whatnot, and he came up and was asking me to sign. They had some sort of declaration or something like this, and I either looked at it that moment or I told him I already looked at it online and I can't sign it. And why? Because they made it um, so intricate that there were items in there that I could not sign to. And this is not an exact thing in there, but for example, they could have had this in, they might have had this in, but this is the type of thing, like we believe that scripture is the only source of or whatever, and it's like of divine revelation or something. It's like, no, I don't believe that. I believe that scripture is, but there's more to it than that. They're all I do recall they were making reference to the Sabbath and instead of the Lord's Day and things like this. Anyway, I really had wished that that some of them knew of me and they could have contacted me. And this is not sour grapes. I'm just saying, if they had consulted me, I could have pointed out that some of their statements, they'd say whereas, such that whereas, that some of those statements a Catholic, an informed Catholic, would not be able to sign. Certainly no Catholic priest would sign. In other words, they limited their group and excluded the largest group of Christians in Canada, that is the Catholics. And now they would look at it and some might want to get in an argument with me about it, but they could have kept it simple where they could have gotten a lot more, Christian leaders, ministers, including priests, to be able to sign on, be part of their group. But no, they decided to go into fine detail, and it was, Protestantism. So, I couldn't be part of that. So you keep it simple. The more you get more detailed, the more people you're going to be pushing out of the group. Who is welcome to participate, and is there a specific faith or political affiliation required to join? Hands Off Our Kids welcomes individuals from all faiths, nationalities, and cultural backgrounds. We invite anyone who believes that the primary purpose of schools is to educate children in subjects such as ethics, critical thinking, English, math, and science to stand alongside them in opposition to the indoctrination of children. Now, that's fairly broad. I could sign that. I don't think that's very well worded. I think that the best way to approach this is that the way that I see it, and the reason I went to the million-person march, when I went to that gathering and gave them my blessing after the fact, after they had already marched, but I lend my support, my spiritual moral support to them, is because they're standing up for parental rights, because they're against the schools having policies that are explicitly stating that that if a child is wants to be called by a different name or by different pronouns or different species, that they are not going to be telling the parents. And no, parental rights. This is about parental rights, and the Catholic Church teaching is that the parents are the primary educators of the children. Actually, I might put it a different way. The parents are the educators of their children. Let's just put it like that. Any teachers, tutors, or anything like that, any school, the individuals are assisting the parents in the parents' role as the educators of the children. That's the way that I see it. I believe that's the way that the Catholic Church sees it. It's the parents' responsibility, and the teachers, hired teachers, are not co-parents uh, with the parents. And also, then this million-person march is about a movement, is about protecting the innocence of children. So, so anyone, and I'm pretty sure Camille El Sheikh would not disagree with what I had just said. But nonetheless, when I read this, I'm saying, yeah, that can be something I can be a part of that. And what else does it say? Trying to see. Join the march. I'm just gonna see, where can I get to the menu here? News and updates. I'm trying to see. They have codes of conduct for their demonstrations. And I'm just seeing. But they have codes of conduct. They have like, these are approved signs and whatnot. So that, I think they're doing a very good job for that demonstration, which is on September the 20th, and then the scheduled one for just yesterday, actually, October the 21st. Yeah, unfortunately, the internet is very slow here, so as I'm live streaming, it's hard to get to other websites, so sorry about that. Okay, so here's a statement that Camille El Sheikh, who is identifying himself as the chairman of Hands Off Our Kids, said. This was prior to, is a good week or so prior to October the 21st. He said, says some locations affected. Due to unforeseen circumstances and the safety and well-being of our Canadian brothers and sisters in this fight for our children, we regret to inform you that the 1 Million March for Children on Saturday, October 21st, 2023, in Ottawa, Ontario, and several other cities across Canada have been cancelled. Please check your city to confirm if there is a march still taking place there. Our team is committed to serving Canadians from coast to coast. We will be relentless and unapologetic in our role as Canada's most powerful movement, which has swept the nation and won the hearts of all parents and children. Together, we are truly one nation under God. Camille El Sheikh, Chairman, Hands Off Our Kids. Now, so that's what he actually said, and many people have speculated that the reason that the unforeseen circumstances was the war in the Holy Land, the conflict there, all that stuff. Because in Canada, in various cities, there were people who demonstrated on what we might say both sides of that, and many people have been shocked at some of the things that they've heard, and therefore it's kind of assumed that this is what Camille El Sheikh was talking about, although he didn't say that. He may have had some intel about counter protesters or whatever in Ottawa that led him to this. It may have nothing to do with that. But you see that since he's set out very clearly the parameters for marching, and I'll see if I can pull up the codes of conduct for the march. And read that to you. But they put the parameters very clearly. So if anyone did show up yesterday carrying flags or signs, contrary to that which was approved, it would have been, that's on those individuals, not on the group, not on the movement, because you cannot control individuals. You just can't. And Now, and it's also, it's very unethical to 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 join in a demonstration that might be quite large due to the hard work of individuals of a particular group coming together for a specific purpose and going in there and hijacking it by taking 100 people or whatever it is, whatever your number is, and going in there and being and presenting a different message. Okay, so that was the point of my other video. And code of conduct of the march. Okay, so listen. So here's the code of conduct. So he lays it out very clearly. So this is, if you want to be part of this group, if you're going to be part of this group, this is what is expected. If someone acts outside of this code of conduct, then it's like you're not part of us anymore. You've decided to do something on your own. And please understand that you are undermining the purpose of the group by bringing outside issues into it, bringing your own take on things into it. Of course, everyone has their own opinions, but this is for the everyone would agree on who goes to this. Code of conduct at the march. Peaceful assembly. Encourage peaceful and non-violent participation. Maintain a peaceful atmosphere throughout the protest. Respectful behavior. Treat all individuals, including law enforcement and counter-protesters, with respect and courtesy. Follow local laws. Familiarize yourself with local laws and regulations regarding protests and abide by them. Stay informed. Be well informed about the issues you are protesting, and share accurate information with others. Dress appropriately. Dress comfortably for the weather and the event. Wear clothing or symbols that represent the cause. Carry signs and banners. Create signs and banners that convey our message clearly and peacefully. Signs or banners should be aligned with our mission stated on our website. Avoid offensive or aggressive language. Chant and sing. Use chants, songs, and slogans to convey your message positively and energetically. Don'ts at the 1 million March for Children. Violence. Absolutely no violence or physical aggression is permitted. This includes throwing objects or engaging in confrontations. Hate speech. Avoid using hate speech, offensive language, or discriminatory remarks. Promote inclusivity and tolerance. Now, obviously, some of these things are vague, but he's trying. I think he's trying to say that we're going to abide by the laws of Canada, and if you're not abiding by it, well, that's an individual. That's not the group. Don't come after this. We're absolutely saying no hate speech, no violence, whatever. Vandalism. Do not damage property, public or private, during the protest. Respect the surroundings. Obstruction. Avoid blocking roads or impeding the movement of others. Ensure safety for all participants and bystanders. Do not engage in illegal activities, including looting or destruction of property. Provocation. Refrain from provoking or escalating conflicts with counter-protesters or law enforcement. Alcohol or drugs. Do not consume alcohol or drugs during the protest. I love that. I mean, one of the things, and I don't know if they're infiltrators or what, but at several of the freedom movement rallies, there are people, you can smell dope in the air. You can smell cannabis in the air. And, it's all legal now. And, my personal opinion, it was a bad mistake to make that legal. And they could make bylaws that you still can't do that in public. We have bylaws that you cannot drink alcohol on the street. In Ontario, the province of Ontario, you cannot go down the street drinking a beer. In Quebec, you can, but in Ontario, you can't. And they ought to make that a bylaw in Ottawa, but they don't. And to go there, and then also, they're not saying foul language here, but at different freedom rallies, some speakers have gone up, and I don't know if they didn't screen the speakers, or it should have been very explicit. No foul language if you are speaking, if you're chanting, if you're you're yelling out to people, or if you're taking the mic to share your thoughts, there should be no foul language, because this undermines the movement. Anyway, litter responsibility. It says, please dispose of any trash or waste in designated receptacles. Keep the protest area clean and environmentally responsible. Anyway, then it has a couple other things, just kind of reinforcing those things and clearing up any confusions. So I think that's a really good model, and I think that, you know, if Camille watches my video of group unity and individual freedoms, I think he would agree with them. So there you go. So let's just take a look at the live chat for a second, and change my settings here because I had it on top chats instead of live chats. I don't know how YouTube makes those distinctions, but here we go. Okay. TJ Brand is in the chat. Good evening, Father. Good evening. Okay, so that's that. Now, the other dynamic with this whole group unity and individual freedoms, which is behind why I did that, is because we all live in the wider culture. Sometimes the wider culture is, or local culture even, is described as the water that we swim in, you know, like to bring a fish analogy. And that we don't always recognize the cultural beliefs that we are formed by, that we live by, because it's just almost like osmosis. It's like that's what we're living in. So I see Sandy Pellman is in the chat. God bless you, Father, from Nova Scotia. Welcome. Thanks for joining in the chat. But we live in this larger culture, and you know, for those of you who are practicing Catholics that are watching this, or devout Christians, this is a question for self-reflection. To what degree am I formed by the gospel? And to what degree am I formed by the culture within which I was born, raised, or live in presently? Now, it gets a little bit murky waters, we could say, to continue the analogy, in North America, in Canada, because the foundations of our nation, or our country, and I include the United States, although it's different philosophies. But when it was formed, when Canada was formed, just to keep it in Canada, it was largely Christian, both Catholic and Protestant. Protestant from the British, and Catholic from the French and the Irish. And you know, but over time, for all sorts of different reasons, including, you know, I'll just throw out a big term, the Quiet Revolution in Quebec, the Christian values have shifted or been abandoned, but there's still many things in our wider culture that have the Christian foundations. Therefore, someone who is not religious at all, if they were born and raised in Canada, especially say my age, you know, born in 1962, that even if they weren't religious, they would still have certain Christian values that they absorbed just because of the culture within which they grew up in. Nowadays, well, nowadays, there are certain characteristics of our wider culture. And one of them is a term you've heard before, which is cancel culture. And one of the things I've been trying to do in my videos of late is try to help us as disciples of Christ to love everyone. We're not to hate anyone, and we're not to cancel anyone either, but that's part of our culture. And one of the things that I've observed is that it doesn't seem like anyone is exempt from this, or anyone is immune from this is the better word. No, but, oh, I disagree with you on this, therefore I'm not going to have anything to do with you. And this is robbing others of the gifts that you have to offer, and it's also robbing you of the gifts that others have to offer. We have a brain. We have to use it, right? But Jesus says, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Now that doesn't mean if someone is abusive to you or has betrayed you, that you have to spend time with them. You get to choose. There's healthy boundaries. You get to choose who you hang out with or who you try to make friends with. And there's only so much time in a day and a life and everything like that. But it's almost as though in our culture, people are looking for a perfect person, and the perfect person is the one who agrees with you on everything that you see eye to eye on everything. Well, philosophers of old have noted that a true friendship that lasts a lifetime, and so I'm drawing on Aristotle here, a true friendship that lasts a lifetime and is mutually beneficial in terms of growing in virtue, becoming a better person. This is very rare. As a matter of fact, most people will never have that. And one time, I had a housemate going back, we're going back probably 25 years now. And he's a very smart man, and he liked to talk a lot, and I learned how to listen from him. And he was like I say, he was very smart. He's a very devout Catholic, and I learned quite a bit from him. And one day he said, and he had been sharing various personal struggles in his life, sharing a bit of his history with me. And one day he said, I don't know if he at some point he realized that the only person who really understands him is Jesus. That's right. God understands each and every human being. God understands you. He understands me. And no other human being will understand you or me perfectly. But there seems to be something in us that wants to be understood by others. And this cancel culture, where even a Christian, even a devout Catholic, will, as they get to know someone else, and it could be a priest, they might not know them personally, but it could be a priest, and they listen, and then they hear something in a homily, and it's like, oh, he believes that, or he said this, and you may misunderstand him, but it doesn't matter. I'm not listening. I don't trust him. I don't see. We've all been hurt so much that we don't want to trust. And we need that healing from Christ. We need that healing from God. And to rest secure in him so that we stop looking for perfection in others. So even though, a person might, proclaim Jesus Christ, I believe in Jesus Christ, I believe in, and they can recite the creed and everything. maybe there's some room for growth, because in actuality, the canceling someone, not going to listen to them, I'm going to unsubscribe from this channel, for example, or whatever. This is, you're looking for Jesus in a human being still. You're still looking for God in a human being. And to recognize that each of us are works in progress, right? None of us are perfect. We all have blind spots, you know. And, you know, what I thought I knew 3 years ago, things have changed. I understand things differently. What I thought I knew, maybe I didn't, maybe I don't know anymore. I think I know more than I did 3 years ago. I think I understand things a little bit more. I think I understand things more than I did, 3 years ago than I did 10 years ago. So we're all works in progress, and we need to, give each other a break and listen and learn from others. And that's about it. That's what I'm trying to do, because in my videos, I generally try to think, is there anything of value that I can bring to anyone who might watch these videos? So I just, as I struggle with various issues, I work through them. Some of them I've worked through a long time ago. Some of them I'm in the midst of it. And then as I try to make sense of it, then I bring it to you, and take what you find is beneficial and leave the rest. And there may be nuances and everything else that have to be clarified in the future or whatever, but that's okay. I think that the video that I premiered this evening on group unity and individual freedom, I think the principles are basically sound, and that you can apply that to any group. And of course, I see many divisions within the Catholic Church as well, and amongst laity, from parish to parish, style of worship, everything like this. And if we could just, get a grip a little bit and realize that, not everyone sees everything the same way, and that's okay. That's okay. I was speaking to a priest recently, and I was trying to address the roadblocks to evangelization that we have. And as I was listing them off, I'm looking at the leadership who dropped the ball during lockdowns, apologized for things that looks like actually never happened, at least not exactly the way the narrative has been presented. And this priest, my dear brother priest, who I respect a lot, and I like this guy a lot, as much as you're supposed to like another person. Don't misinterpret that. But anyway, he stopped me. He said, "No, I don't agree there. There's where I disagree." Oh, and where don't you disagree? And anyway, we got a little bit of exchange there. We were running out of time. We were at a larger meeting, and they were kind of ringing the bell, so to speak, that it was starting. So our conversation was cut short. But one of the things I said was, we can disagree about a whole bunch of things. It's okay. It's okay. We're both intelligent men. We've both done our research, and we've come up with different conclusions, basically about obedience to certain orders in the last few years. I look forward to, before I left, I saw him and shook his hand, gave him a hug. We're good, right? Because he was talking to someone else. I didn't want to get into it. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation even, but I had to go, and I wanted to thank the one person and not leave things hanging with this other priest. So I think, by the look in his eyes, I think he understands. And so within the church, there are many things that we can disagree about. We can disagree about the age of the earth, for example, or he threw in whether the earth is round or flat. Yeah, exactly. We can disagree on those things. And, as far as I know, and I'm being a bit facetious here, when someone comes into the Catholic Church, like an adult comes into full communion, or comes in and is baptized, confirmed, and receives Holy Communion and enters fully into the Catholic Church, we don't ask them if they believe in the efficacy of face coverings to stop viruses. We don't we don't we don't quiz them about various medical interventions. That's not our common purpose. So so this just as an example, and there are people in the world, and certainly, well, we'll say there are persons, there are spiritual entities who want us all divided, want humanity divided, want us to be at each other's throat. Like who is behind the cancel culture? I would say it's the father of lies. But and feeding into our own woundedness and stuff like this. But the answer is to be secure in your relationship with God, and be resolved to be an instrument of His love, and have some humility. That I don't, my opinions about things, my understanding of things can change, and so can others. But someone doesn't have to agree with me on everything for me to be their friend. And I don't want to burn bridges with people, unless there's been, some abuse or something. And even there, in my heart of hearts, I don't hate the persons, but I realize that in certain areas, certain people are not trustworthy, and I'm not trustworthy in certain areas, right? I mean, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, but I have my limitations, right? It goes to the Peter principle, the old Peter principle, that individuals get promoted to their level of incompetency, like we all have capacities, right? If I was at, well, let's give it just make up an example. If I was at an Ottawa Senators hockey game, and their goalie got injured, and their backup goalie got injured, I would not, they should not be calling on me to go into goal. There's got to be someone else in the stadium, in the arena, that is going to be able to, has played goalie before. I've never played goalie. Okay, so that would be an example where I would not be trustworthy to take the nets for the Ottawa Senators. That's not my skill. That's not my talent. And I'm 61 years old. And I should act my age. So anyway, so someone, for example, someone had was sharing their experiences with me about whatever's going on in their life, and came to the conclusion this person has shown that they're not trustworthy. And I said, well, wait, just slow down for a second. Maybe in this particular area, the person is not trustworthy, but in other areas, the person is trustworthy. So be careful about canceling people. We want to simplify things. We don't want to be hurt. We don't want to waste time, but I don't think it's in accordance with, let me put it this way, the cancel culture, the temptation to write people off. I don't think that is the gospel. I think that's one of the values of the culture within which we live. So there you go. So that's that. I did want to talk about that. Let me check the live chat, and then I'm going to talk about something else, kind of related, but kind of not. Father John Brown says he likes my haircut. Okay, look, 99 times out of 100, or no, what is it? Let's not exaggerate. 49 times out of 50, I don't know. I don't know what percentage. I cut my hair myself. And I did get my hair cut professionally about 3 months ago, maybe. I think it cost me $40, and this was one of these like first choice hair cutters. It was like a discount place. I think it was $33 plus tax, and then I gave them $40, a tip or whatever. It's like, you're kidding me. So I can't afford to get hair. I think I do a pretty good job myself. The last time I cut my hair, I just use the buzzers, and I have the various attachments, and I did a really good job. I didn't cut it too short, and I use a mirror and two mirrors and with the razor and to get the electric razor to get it flat at the back and stuff like this. And I did a really good job. It's like, wow, that I don't have to cut it that short. But when I cut it this short, usually what happens is um, I'm trimming, and then I go, oops, and then I have to cut it short because yeah, it's looks really bad. So anyway, not that when I was younger, my hair it was so important to me, but we get older, our looks are not that important. I mean, I need to be presentable, I guess. Um, you know, before I grew this beard, I used to say, until I go bald uh, or gray, I'm not going to get any respect because in my own mind, I think I look younger than I am. But at least the beard reminds me of my age, so I keep it like that. But anyway, there you go. Okay, what do I want to talk about? Without revealing too much, revealing, secrets. I don't think there are any secrets anyway at this. But on Thursday, there was what we call pastoral day for my home diocese. So I like to go into those so that I can keep in touch with my diocese because I'm, an hour, 45-minute, 2-hour drive away. And to the other end of the diocese, I'd be like, 3 or 4 hours away, 4 hours away. And, I'm not in parish ministry. I'm not a recluse, but I do live alone. And of course, I have people come for visits and, to the retreat center and whatnot. But to get together with my brother priests, it's a great opportunity to know what's going on at the diocese. And although I am on email list, the diocese has been changing the way they communicate the news type of thing, announcements. There used to be kind of like a diocesan-wide bulletin, and they used to call it the Friday Fax, FAX, and then they changed it to Friday Fax, FACTS, when people stopped using facsimile machines, and they would send this out by email and PDF, and they've updated their website and want everyone to kind of be into that portal, I think would be the language that they're using, or the language I'll use for the time being. And I'm just not set up on that. That's I'm not in the loop. So for the last several months, I have no idea what's going on in my archdiocese. And when I check the website, I find it difficult to navigate, and that's probably me. We'll put it like that. But anyhow, so there's a pastoral day, and I didn't know what to expect. The morning is the specific invitees, I guess, or invited guests would be, priests, parish priests especially, but any of the priests, any of their administrators or staff or anything like that. And there was diocesan staff there, and really anyone can go. But the thing is, most people wouldn't know about it because Friday Facts are not going out every week anymore, so a lot of people wouldn't know. And so I didn't know what the topic was or anything like that, but I show up, and they have presenters, and then the morning is for that, like for a couple hours. Then they have a lunch for anyone who wants to stay for lunch for that, and pay for their lunch. And they try to make it like different themes. This year it was Oktoberfest, so they had a kind of a German meal with beers and stuff like that. I'm doing intermittent fasting, and yeah, generally I would skip away for that. I had my dog with me. I went and walked my dog and stuff like that. So I didn't stay for the lunch. And then the afternoon is only for clergy. So that would be, priests and deacons. There'd be the odd diocesan staff there who's a layperson or whatever. But in the morning, we were given 3 presentations. One was on the state of affairs in the diocese and in the church in Canada, and I guess a bit in the United States as well, in terms of Sunday Mass attendance. And so there's statistics and whatnot, and then I want to get into some detail of that presentation in this live stream. And then there was basically it was someone who is a young woman, a married woman with a few young children, who basically gave her testimony of her faith journey, how she came to be baptized as a young adult, and gave a little bit of her background and stuff like that. And it was I would say it was kind of an introduction to her, because she's the position that she holds at the job that she took, I guess, the diocese is philanthropy, is fundraising, I guess. But she didn't really get into that. But she gave her testimony, and it was very good. And I spoke with her briefly afterwards, and and not to get into the details of her story, but it did confirm that we're all works in progress, because what brought her into the church and into a dynamic relationship with Christ, she's not there anymore, or at least she's not going to the parish that would indicate to me that she's at the same place. So in other words, she's growing in her faith, or perhaps maturing, or perhaps deepening, or maybe now that she's married, maybe because of her husband, is maybe he wouldn't be comfortable in that type of spiritual expression. But they because you can look at the truth from different angles. And so it kind of confirmed that with me, just for the short conversation I had with her. And then we had a short presentation from another employee of the diocese. I believe an employee, it could be a volunteer, it could be a very devout volunteer, but I think she's an employee who, because at the diocesan level, it's all support staff, right? They're trying to support those on the front lines and everything like this. But as many of you know, the Canadian bishops committed $30 million to truth and reconciliation with the Indigenous peoples of Canada, and each diocese is given targets. And in the Archdiocese of Ottawa-Cornwall, the target is $1.2 million to raise over 3 years, or it might be 2 years. Anyway, after a year, they're at $600,000. So that was, or more. I think 650,000. I think something. So they're very pleased with that. And then there's a little brief of what the money is going to be used for, or something like that. So that was the morning, and then the afternoon session, we were given a presentation by a priest from another diocese, who's a retired professor of ethics, to talk about the medical assistance in dying in Canada, which is assisted suicide and euthanasia. And so he gave us a talk on that, gave us some statistics, and there was a good a little bit of a good question and answer, or comments from my brother priests and a couple of deacons that afternoon about the pastoral approach, and how we can handle these situations. So that was basically the day. But going back to that first one about which is basically about evangelization, about the status of the church, how many people in the geographical territory of Ottawa-Cornwall identify themselves as Catholic. They actually self-identify as Catholic. They checked off this box or whatever it was. I don't know. I mean, a Catholic is a Catholic if they've been baptized in the Catholic Church, basically. And if they stop practicing their faith, or they become go and become a Jehovah's Witness or something, we still count them as Catholics, because baptism is an indelible mark on the soul. And as a matter of fact, recently, the last number of years, there's been new protocols. It used to be that a person could go to their parish of baptism and renounce the faith and ask, and then that would be noted in the baptismal record that they renounced their faith. But we stopped doing that. We just like, no, you're like, you can renounce your faith all you want. You're still Catholic. So anyway, the numbers look quite dismal, but there's no surprise there from anyone. Dr. Khalil Hashem has, if I'm pronouncing your name right, God bless you, Father. Thanks for joining the chat there, and it's been a while since we've talked, and I don't know, reach out to me if you want. I think in the description is my email address, and you know, if you're able, it'd be great for you to come and visit. Come for a day visit, or even a couple days if you want, or we can get together in Ottawa if you want. But so anyways, getting back to the statistics of how many Catholics are going to Mass, and it's quite dismal. I think it came out, he was showing actually actual parish numbers of how many, what the attendance is each Sunday at all the parishes across, and also donations or Sunday contributions as well that are reported each year from each parish to the diocese, so they can do analysis on it and see the state of affairs. And yeah, it's been in a great decline. And I didn't look at the numbers of it. I can't, it's on my phone, so I can't look at it right now. I took some screenshots of the PowerPoint, but if my memory serves me correctly, there's something like, there's a large number, 52% or something, of those who identify as Catholics are not going to church on Sunday, but they do believe in God. And the presenter was really trying to put a positive spin on it and look at it almost from a business perspective, and saying that's really good news. That's an untapped market, we could say in business terms. Now, unfortunately, I mentioned this to the auxiliary bishop before the day was over, or actually at the end of the day, that at this pastoral day and the previous one that I had gone to, I thought that what was discussed in the morning was presented in the morning, that the clergy would discuss in the afternoon, but it wasn't. We were given a completely different presentation and very limited opportunity, although in the afternoon this time there was a lot more opportunity for feedback and comments and that type of thing. But so he said he would note it, and I don't know, we'll see. Maybe my suggestion will, maybe they'll do that. Maybe the afternoon session will be the clergy discussing what was presented, you know, to hash it out, develop it, get our impressions and feedback from it. But yeah, the presenter in the morning was saying this 52%, or so I don't know how many couple 100,000 people, I guess, in the Ottawa area or more, believe in God, you know, identify themselves as Catholic, but they don't go to Mass. And he's saying, well, what the presenter was saying, well, we're going to bring these people back to Mass. We're going to bring them into the practice of faith. But unfortunately, there's an assumption there that most of them are not going to Mass because, one, they're not catechized, They don't know what the Mass is really about, otherwise they would be going. And that maybe some of them have had no, it wasn't that. That was basically the thing. They weren't well catechized, but then saying, well, what can we do? Well, we can, make sure that we're very welcoming and what all the whatever things. He wasn't like telling us exactly what to do, but just trying to say this. But my point is, these people are not going to Mass. They're not going anywhere close to church to experience a new improved liturgy, or they're not going there. And there are roadblocks. And the roadblocks that I bring up, let me see how much I can share in this live stream. Well, the first roadblock is when people who don't go to Mass think of the Catholic Church, they think of priests, and they think of sexual abuse, especially of minors, and perhaps boys, and therefore homosexuality. This is a huge roadblock. As someone who, and the presenter was encouraging everyone to kind of get out of the rectory and be amongst people and this type of thing, and encourage the laity to also to get engaged and not kind of close in on ourselves. And I do that. I go out to rallies. I talk to other people. Like I go to the municipal council meetings. I engage people wherever I go. I go to a restaurant or the grocery store or whatever, and I befriend people, whether they're Catholic or not. My neighbors, it doesn't matter to me. I'm called to love them, and I'm gonna, meet them where they're at. I'm not gonna go over and hit them over the head. I do ask a lot of people, "Are you Catholic?" And sometimes I immediately say, like, I'm not trying to throw you a guilt trip. Like, most Catholics don't go to church. It's not that, and I explain, I I live like a hermit. I'm not a parish priest or anything like that. That's not my agenda with them. But I want to get to know them. I want to love them, and let's face it, with the way that things have been going in the world today, for those of you who can see, it's very important that we know our neighbors, and that like, that we prepare for various circumstances that may or may not be coming down the pipe, and whether that be because of various governments' agendas, whether that be foreign nations, or whether it be just natural disasters, that we should be prepared, and we should know our neighbors, because some of our neighbors are either not able or are completely blind to, they're completely oblivious as to what's going on. So we ought to be preparing for them as well, and we ought to be networking with others and knowing our neighbors. And there's so many good reasons to, and for me who live alone, it's very good for me to have my neighbors know me, so that in case anything happens. Lots of reasons to know our neighbors, and develop relationships with them, common purpose. But from my experience, the first obstacle to get by is that I'm not gay and I'm not a child molester. And that is a huge obstacle. Connected with that, and maybe even more so, is all the cover-ups of the bishops and others, including laity, and this is all the cover-ups of priests who have done bad things, and it comes out later after they've been charged by the police. Oh, the bishop knew about it, or there was accusations or whatever, but it wasn't. It's a mess. And what they do whenever this happens is they write up new codes of conduct, which puts all of us priests into straitjackets, pastoral straitjackets. So we can't even like talk to anybody. And some of it is quite crazy, and I could go into some stories on that, but I don't want to make this a super long live stream. And you know, how do I deal with that? Well, I have to believe that people are generally good, and that while there can be false accusations, I have to believe that the police are pretty good at figuring out whether someone is lying or not in their investigations. You know, I've been a critic of the government-run Catholic schools here in Ontario. You all know that, or anyone who watches my videos knows that. And I have a reputation for being a critic of the lack of pointing out the lack of Catholicity and the complete failure to pass on the faith through the Catholic school, the so-called Catholic schools. And so I have a lot of enemies, and most of them do not practice their faith. And some of them live lives that are quite contrary to Catholic teaching. Yet, in all my years, I've been a priest for 18 years, no one has falsely accused me of anything. And I can only say that even though they see me as their enemy or whatever, no one in that system, please God, thank God, please God, has lowered themselves to falsely accuse me of something, right? It's also my observation, however, that when a priest is accused of something, that they do approach the diocese and try to show that the diocese is somehow responsible for the misdeeds of an individual priest, and there's been obviously lots of financial settlements, and so the lawyers on the diocesan level, I would not trust them. I would not trust them. I don't know who they are, but I would not trust them, because we have a huge dysfunctional family. And in a dysfunctional family, dysfunctional system, image is more important than truth. And they will throw a priest under the bus and settle. And they may even look at it like court costs or what. No. If I was ever accused, I would definitely go get my own lawyer. But anyway, though that's the huge obstacle right there. They look at us, they think we're sexual perverts, and the bishops have covered up. That's a huge roadblock. The next, of course, elephant in the room for anyone who is awake, of the people that I run into in the freedom movement who are geopolitically aware, let's just put it like that, or have become that way in the last 3 years because they saw the lie and they did not buy into the propaganda and the narrative that so many people did. These are people these are my people, my kind of people. These are people, many of them are not Catholic or Christian. Many of them have been hurt by the church. Many of them are New Agers or of whatever religion, but they can see a lie and refuse to go along with it. So they are, one of my biggest support groups. And the ones that I'm closest to are also practicing Catholics, right? But these are people that I love very much and I respect very much. But that I'm a Catholic priest, and I'm looked upon amongst some of them with suspicion. Why? Well, because of the elephant in the room of what the whole world, who the whole world calls Pope Francis. And he whatever's going on there, whatever's going on at the Vatican, whatever, like I don't even want to get into. I'm kind of like those monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, like I don't want to look at it. Maybe that's cowardly on my part, but I just, there's others who are speaking about these things. But for those in the freedom movement, it's like many of them, plus 500 years of Protestantism, Protestant propaganda. Remember that. 500 years of Protestant propaganda where they think that the church is a whore of Babylon. Imagine what a terrible thing. Lord have mercy on them. That they think this terrible thing about the bride of Christ. That's terrible. But there is corruption. I do believe there is corruption, and whether it be on purpose, infiltration, whatever is going on, yes, there are people in the church, including those who wear collars and wear different colors of clergy dress. They are like actively undermining or contradicting church teaching. But for those in the freedom movement, it's like, well, the Catholic Church is lock in step with the WEF and the United Nations. And I can't argue with that. They're absolutely right. But that's a huge roadblock for people to consider the Catholic Church. And many look at me with suspicion, like I am an infiltrator or controlled opposition or something like this. But that's okay. But that's a roadblock. And then the capitulation of all the bishops in the parishes. Across our country and across the world, who they cooperated with the mandates, and they treated Catholics like children instead of like adults. The bishops could have, but in a way they couldn't. If you've watched my other videos, I have great sympathy for the men who are bishops. They weren't chosen to be bishops because they swim against the stream. They were chosen because they swim with the stream. They see themselves as peacemakers. They're responsible men. They're trustworthy in so many ways, but do not expect them to be great apologists for the Catholic faith. Don't expect them to accept any invitation to debate the Catholic faith with some Protestant leader. They're not going to do it. They don't want any controversy. And they're not going to be confronting the government. The men who are bishops are not going to be confronting the government, by and large. And this should be no surprise to us, because think of the time of King Henry VIII in England. And we only have Bishop John Fisher, who didn't go along with it. As far as the clergy, that's the only one I know of. I mean, there are others later, and for different reasons, but everyone capitulated. And I say, do we know of any canonized saints who were canonized because they went along with the crowd? So the reason they're canonized saints, and we celebrate them throughout the year, is because they swam against the stream. Yes, Edmund Campion. But Edmund Campion, was that not a different issue? I mean, there was persecution against the Catholic Church, but at the time of King Henry VIII, when he was saying he was the head of the church in England, like Father Brown, you may know more about this, but Edmund Campion, he wasn't a contemporary of John Fisher, was he? Anyway, point is, it's a minority. This expectation that we have as Catholics that all the bishops are going to be united in standing up for the truth against the government and being willing to be martyrs, it's dreaming in Technicolor. Other than the apostles and the very early church, I don't think it's ever been that way. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it anyway. So let's lower expectations on that. understand where the men who are bishops are coming from so that we might be able to support them, encourage them, and strengthen them. But don't be looking for leadership on that. Like, that's not gonna happen. But yeah, so they could have taken, they could have, it was a golden opportunity for them to be leaders in the freedom movement and standing up and pointing out the lies and all that type of thing. But they were tricked just like most people were tricked. That's the way I see it. But some devout Catholics were chased out of their churches for not wearing the outward sign of submission, had the police called on them, etc. And how about an apology for that? But speaking of apologies, they also apologized at the end of May 2021, the news media and the federal government. So Father John Brown has given me an update. They died about 50 years apart. Edmund Campion left the Anglicans and was killed for ministering to Catholics. Yeah, very good. Yeah, so after the fact, obviously, I mean, the Catholic Church did survive in England. But so anyway, so the media and the mainstream media announced that there was a discovery of 215 graves, unmarked graves, at the Kamloops Catholic residential school that operated for like 70 years or something like this, through real pandemics and tuberculosis and other things, right? And the way that it was either it was implicit or explicit sometimes, was that there's 215 children in these graves, bodies of, the remains of, who were abused and murdered by the Catholic Church and the residential schools. And some said they were thrown in mass graves. Well, 2 years have passed, over 2 years have passed, and there's not one shred of evidence of this, and evidence to the contrary. And I'm not denying that there were abuses of this. There's abuses all through society, and to this day. But but so many bishops got on YouTube and social media and on their websites and apologized and called it a genocide, etc. And it's like there was no evidence. And they need to. I believe it was in the attempts of reconciliation and wanting to help, Indian Canadians, Indigenous, because also Inuit and whatnot. But if it's truth and reconciliation, the truth has to be there too. And I'm not holding my breath for an apology, or even there was one bishop, retired bishop Fred Henry, I believe is his name, from Calgary, who is like calling this out, but at least to some degree. But all the others, no. Are they ever going to backtrack? No, probably not. But will they apologize for the abuse that devout Catholics had to suffer through during lockdowns? No, I don't think so either. So these are roadblocks. These are roadblocks to evangelization. Hi, Kim. Hi, Kim. Glad you're in the chat. Glad you're watching. I want to focus on one thing that I hope will be insightful of this presentation at the Pastoral Day on Thursday. To give, to help us in his presentation, and I believe his point was decisions that are made now will have an effect down the road, or decisions that have been made in the past have an effect on us now. He used an example from the public transportation system in the city of Ottawa. So some of you are aware of it and some of you aren't. I'll try to give a rundown. But as in any major city, public transportation at the municipal level is always a big issue because of, well, at least in the past, uh, downtown congestion, and it's part of kind of a modern city to have modern transportation and this type of thing. So for way back when there was streetcars and in Ottawa and buses, and then it just went to buses, and now it's buses and light rail, some of which is underground, but it's not like a full subway or something like that. And it's under construction. And there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, etc. And it's been a comedy of errors the last several years. And costing, of course, the taxpayers, untold millions of dollars. And so this presenter was saying decisions that were made at the beginning to choose light rail are affecting, and there's things now. And he was presenting it, I think it's fair to say that he was presenting it as there was bad decisions made, but now we're stuck with them. Well, first of all, a new city council and mayor could, if people voted for them, could put a stop to it all. Just because someone in the past has made a decision to create a money pit does not mean that you have to, you can get off the garbage truck before it gets to the dump. You can abandon projects or revamp projects and change your mind about things. You don't have to go by precedent because some other mayor or council did that, like made a decision 10 years ago. The example, and here's where I hope this is a little bit of an aha moment. And as I explain it, some of you are going to be getting it before I even explain it. He brought up a PowerPoint of the map of the light rail system in Ottawa. And he showed that there is a plan to have light rail from the international airport, the main airport for Ottawa, and YOW airport. And he showed that if someone flew into Ottawa, say on a business trip, and they decided to take their luggage, onto the light rail to get downtown to the Westin Hotel or the Chateau-Laurier or whatever, one of the big hotels downtown, because he's having a conference, he's going to a conference or meetings downtown or something, that the person is going to have to transfer on the light rail 3 times. And he said, who's going to want to do that? And his point was there's bad decisions, but we're stuck with it and we're going ahead with it. And the idea was everyone think of what you're doing now at the parish setting, because these decisions you're going to have to live with for a long, long time. And people after us, priests and bishops and whatever after us, are going to have to live with this. No, they could abandon whatever we decide try as well. But here's the thing, and I'll say it like this. It's not a design flaw, it's a design feature. The presenter had made also some comment, also revealing kind of a buying into a certain narrative that, lamenting, a small little lamentation, that they chose to go with diesel instead of electric, and then pointed to someone at the diocese level, I don't know, as volunteer or paid employee, who is in charge of care for creation. In other words, that would be our environmental and climate change person. And so we don't have to go into all the problems with the EVs, electric vehicles, the batteries, the lifespan, the electricity, how to create the electricity, all this stuff. But these are not design flaws; they're design features. Because as you and I know, they don't want. So I'm saying the elites, the powers that be, those who are, in the WEF inner circle or large circle or whatever, graduates of the WEF, young leaders or whatever, you know, um, and all the various mayors that have declared their cities smart cities and etc. They don't want people to be to easily go from one end of the city to the other. They want people to live within a 15-minute radius that they could walk or bicycle to get everything they need. And they do not want anyone but the elites to travel by air. There's no need. There's no need to have a direct line from the airport, Ottawa's airport, to downtown Ottawa, because very few people are going to be flying in, and those who do, they'll have their limousines and whatnot. Remember, we'll own nothing and be happy. Which leads me to my last thought, because I've had a lot of ideas that I want to talk about, and I'm just kind of including them all in this live stream. All around the world in Western civilizations, first world countries, right? There has been massive migration of people into our countries. And way faster than we could absorb, without any real screening even. And yes, our birth rate is pathetically low amongst first world Western civilization countries. So I'm not just saying West, and I'm not saying North, because like I would include Australia in this, New Zealand. And so our birth rates has been in Europe, obviously Europe and North America, and that our birth rates have been pathetically low, and the economic system has been a Ponzi scheme. And we need immigrants, but not indiscriminately, and not to this great number. And there is housing shortages. There's not enough houses, not enough places for people to live. And winter is coming. And this is really bad, really, really bad. And there's not even enough skilled workers and time to build houses so people can be warm and dry this winter. It's really bad. But again, I would say this is not a design flaw, this is a design feature. We like to make fun of Justin Trudeau here in Canada, or some people do. And I mean, it's easy to make fun of. He's easy to make fun of. And he's, many people will think he's kind of a bumbling fool. He's there. I think there's no doubt that he's a puppet. He's had a very troubled childhood. in the public eye. Very wounded person, I think. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to, lay out the facts. And very wealthy, but all inherited wealth, of course. Well, plus political wealth, if you know how that works. So he's definitely an ivory tower type of person. But I don't think he's an idiot. He's been made fun of, and understandably so, several years ago. Now, time flies. For talking about the federal budget by saying the budget will balance itself. And everyone laughs at him. Instead, the budget will balance himself. Well, remember, his favorite country that he admires is China. And he said, in his own words, because of their basic dictatorship, they can change the economy on a dime. He admires communism and dictatorships. So let me turn the phrase that has been made so much fun of, the budget will balance itself. And let me say the housing shortage will take care of itself. I mean, I hope I'm not right about this, but think of this. The apparent high compliancy rate amongst Canadians for, certain things and certain tests, various invasive tests that might have deposited nanoparticles, nanotechnology. There are people who, after being tested, have had small fridge magnets be able to stick to their nose. And if what many suspect is going on with all of that, along with certain towers that appeared while everyone else was in lockdown and couldn't see what was going on, and are all over the country, all over the landscape. And of course, the impending pandemic that will be much worse, as if what was declared a pandemic 3 years was actually a pandemic, because it wasn't. But that, yeah, as Bill Gates with his estranged wife Melinda, the famous interview there where they kind of smirk, and Bill Gates says, well, they won't miss the next one. The next one will be obvious. Yeah. Well, when someone dies, they vacate where they lived. So I think that if their plan works out, like I say, the features of their plan works out, that there's going to be a population replacement. And that is a genocide. So a lot of the people who've come into our countries were given a pass on the what other Canadians were required if they left the country and came back. For example, refugees from Ukraine, starting in February 2022. They did not have to go through the Canada apps thing or whatever, Entry Canada app or whatever. And as you know, many people, for the compliancy rate in certain third world countries is quite low. And that's because they have experience from inoculations from companies owned by and so-called so-called what's the word I'm trying to think of, whatever, humanitarian efforts by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They have experience in this from decades ago, that this has caused more damage to their populations than anything. So let me just put it out here. Let's say that the vast majority of Canadians, something like 30 million, have got that. Philanthropic. Thanks, Father. I couldn't pronounce that, but I was really meaning humanitarian aid or whatever as well. But that let's say, yeah, they're going to get turbo cancers at higher rates and other heart attacks, etc., and that we will start seeing people dropping dead or going to the hospitals and being treated with remdesivir. And well, there's your vacancies for these other people to have shelter. And what about those Canadians who didn't? Well, and I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just trying to think of what could happen. Well, we might be just gathered up and brought to the territory of Nunavut, which would be Canadians' version of, like, could be Canada's version of the Soviet Siberia. And the people, if that happens, right? Where's my tin foil anyway? Well, this will have to suffice. If that happens, the people remaining in the 15-minute cities, so they don't need the great transportation system to get from one end of the city to the next. Oh, that will be there, but it's only for the elites. No one else will be allowed to go. Bubble wrap doesn't work. No. This is my tinfoil hat. My bubble wrap hat. And it gives me my special intellectual insights. Well, with the great drop in standard of living. Most Canadians will not be happy, but that's okay. We'll be up somewhere else. We'll be taken away. Quarantine facilities until we agree to take the Jonestown, however they want us to take it. And unless we serve some purpose up there, maybe. But anyhow, or up there, or wherever it might be. But those who come from third world countries, even the drastic drop in standard of living, that will be improvement from there, where they will be. Now, they won't own anything, but comparatively to what the life they had been used to, they'll be happy. And it all works out in the end. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? But for us, but for us, we are going to be happy wherever we go, wherever we are. We're going to have, we're going to continue to practice holy detachment. Because happiness is not about our comforts. It's not about our standard of living, the house that we live in, the car that we drive. That's not happiness. Happiness is an inside job, right? We are going to be happy wherever we are because the Lord is with us. And as I would half joke with people at freedom rallies, I'm coming down here so I know the names of the people that I'm going to be in the gulag with, right? And even if it's worst case scenario, you know, what's the most? This life is short. Let's be detached. Let's use the things that we have stewardship of now to the best. Let's plan for a good future, because the thing is that these social engineers, they're not God. And I love that verse that's in the breviary. I think it's Psalm 44. Speaking to God says, with the sincere you are sincere, and with the cunning you outdo in cunning. The story is not finished, and more people will wake up. And classical Marxism was not able to take root in North America. I mean, there could be argued that ideologically it has taken root, but in all practical terms, it has not been able to. And I'm going to have confidence in people, and of course in God, that this is not an inevitability. But I think it's part of the plan. And for us, you know, it's, can we rise to the occasion in our moral fortitude? Someone's trying to call me. They're obviously not subscribed with the notifications on. They wouldn't be phoning me. No. We're gonna strengthen our moral fortitude. We're gonna resolve to love everyone, and that may even be this winter, showing our charity not only to our neighbors who are not awake and are not prepping and not prepared for the for the ridiculous inflation and supply chain problems, or whatever other possible disasters may come our way. But maybe even some of these migrants try to figure it out. And yeah, we are in WWIII already, and the weapons of war are not just bullets and bombs and missiles and etc. The weapons of war is propaganda and truth, and the way, while some people say, when such and such hit us, and such this caused this, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. We all know all-cause mortality did not go up significantly, anything to justify any of the things. And as a matter of fact, any rise in all-cause mortality can be directly attributed to, or the dots can be connected to the measures that the government did and the compliance. In Canada, they took overcrowded hospitals, people who were sick enough to have rooms in the hospital, cleared out the hospitals, put them in nursing homes, which already there was months and months waiting lists on. They were already overcrowded. Banned family members and volunteers from going into the nursing homes, and put people on ventilators, etc., etc. Yeah, because in Canada, the vast majority who died in 2020, 2021 were in nursing homes, and we're over the age of average life expectancy in Canada. Of course, since then, all-cause mortality has risen, is my understanding, but that's because of this, and it's not just old people or people on old age homes anymore. Or nursing homes, okay, long-term care facilities, we call them. And anyway, let's resolve to be charitable to everyone. And if we have to somehow, shelter, clothe, feed the homeless in our countries, then let's do it. And let's rise to the occasion. Let's rise to the occasion. And and this is a bit speculation, like I've always said, live one day at a time, live the serenity prayer, accept the things you cannot change, encourage change things we can. We'll just resolve to be loving and to do what we can on all practical things. And our happiness does not depend on our standard of living, or that we've been able to eat bananas in the wintertime in Canada, or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we've had a very good life so far living in North America, and I would brace ourselves for a drastic lower in standard of living, but it is like millions of people have learned how to live under communism, and my mea culpa is I've been quite out of sight, out of mind. Most of my life, I've not given a second thought to people in North Korea, or the Soviet Union, or China, or Cuba. I've not given a second thought most of my life, or not to mention, the war-torn regions of the world, which is much more than what we're fed in the mainstream media. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. Hope some of that was helpful. Hope it's not a downer causing or contributing to anxiety of anybody. I find it a consolation and a gift to be able to see the bigger picture. We, as human beings, we always try to understand things, and so everyone tries to understand the situation in the world and in their lives, the suffering, etc., in a certain way. Psalm 44, exactly. Yeah. See, God, if God is with us, who can be against us? And he is sincere with the sincere, and outdoes in cunning those who are cunning. So these people. Oh, and by the way, just kind of my overall take of it is this: the elites, the global elites, or whatever, however you want to put it, I think they do suffer from ivory tower syndrome. Some of them, they're so wealthy they don't know what to do with their life or whatever. I think they do have a bit of a superiority complex, which is, like I've mentioned before, is actually an inferiority complex. But they kind of would see themselves, I think, as the ones responsible to fix the problems of the world. And the problems of the world, totally mistakenly, or maybe, maybe there's the evil intentions there, but I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they actually believe that the earth cannot sustain the current population or population growth, human population growth. So they see it upon themselves to cull the human population. So it's all about a depopulation agenda, and when we see it like that, we can see things make a lot of sense, the decisions that are made and whatnot. But let's do our best to resist and guard ourselves against resentment. Put our trust in God, because that's all that really matters. And pray for them. Like, pray for their repentance, because and of course, look to ourselves, look to yourself, look to myself. What is it that I need to change in my life, right? And to be good with God, to be reconciled with Him. Father John Brown gave a very good video a couple videos ago on why go to confession. So go to his YouTube channel, Fr John Brown SJ, and check it out. He's got a lot of wisdom and a lot of good practical things in there. His last video, I think, unless you've done one recently, even from, was it yesterday or whatever, about Saint Ignatius of Loyola's practical advice about eating. So that was, I learned a few things there. Another good, really good priest, and I've sent it to a couple people today. The link to it is Father Stephen in the Archdiocese of Toronto, and let me see if I can pull it up. Let's see, where is my I want to try to find my the channels that I'm subscribed to. So let me see if I can do it like this. Here we go. I want to link to his YouTube channel. He's publishing, or his parish's website channel, and he is, here we go, good. He is broadcasting his homilies, his daily homilies, and he gave an amazing homily for Sunday. Amazing homily for the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time, 2023. In other words, October 22nd, 2023. And I'm gonna leave a link in the chat here, because they don't have a lot of subscribers, and he only gets like 50 viewers or something like this. But for those who watch this channel, I think you're going to be encouraged by him. I'm impressed, very impressed with his homily today, because, well, I pray that he doesn't get canceled because of it, because yeah. And when you go over to Father John Brown SJ's YouTube, or when you go over to Father Stephen's parish, I'm gonna get the link and put it in the chat here. Subscribe to them, leave a little comment, say, hey, Father Anthony sent me to your channel. So I get some emails from Father Stephen, and yeah, this is a priest that's very, very, very aware of things. So there you go. There you go. Let's see if I can put it in my comment. I put a pinned comment on this video, I think. I don't know if I can find it or not. Okay, I guess maybe I'll have to add it later. When I end the live stream, the chat is not visible until I don't know, sometimes a couple days later. I don't know if it has to do with probably has to do with for sure with the length of the live stream, but also how slow the internet is here. So there you go. So let's pray for one another, and let's have confidence in God who loves us, who loves you. He wants your well-being. He wants my well-being, and he is with you. So don't be afraid, and just the best thing is just love people. Just love God and love people, and love casts out all fear. Just crowd out any fear with love and trust in God. And remember that no human being is God. Only God is God. So give people a break. Give people in your life a break. Give people in the church a break, because nobody is perfect. And if we all cancel each other because someone disagrees with me or whatever, you're going to be pretty lonely. Alone. You're going to be pretty alone. Like, I'm alone. I choose to be alone. I like my solitude. I love people. I love being with people. And I hope that in Viam Pacis here does grow a little bit. I don't want it to be like a huge thing, but if God's will, fine. But I am open to individuals who understand the purpose of Viam Pacis Retreat Center, to for which is basically like a place of hermitage and for silent retreats for individuals, and to facilitate that. And if it's on your heart, don't be afraid to reach out to me. Don't be afraid to reach out to me, and I can discuss about possibilities. I want to build a main building here, but and I've had different individuals over the past 5 years reach out to me wanting to reside here. I've had ironically, mostly it's been women who want to live this more quiet life. Some I've been approached by consecrated virgins and canonical hermits, but I don't have anywhere to put them. So, unless I can find a benefactor, I don't want to be like approaching banks and trying to borrow money, because I just don't find that's very prudent to do. So, so anyway, for whatever it's worth, I kind of put that out there, and but I leave it up to divine providence. Everything will be fine somehow or other. Blessed are you, blessed are you among women. Yep. Anyway, well, I do. There's rules here. And the three basic rules. It's a little bit tongue in cheek, but not really. Is because this all, in addition to Viam Pacis being a place of silent retreat for individuals, and by the way, I'm not open to the public. This is my hermitage. This is my retreat center, and Viam Pacis Retreat Center. But if you want to visit me, I'm happy to discuss that. And if you want to stay for a few days and you don't want me to talk to you for a few days, and you want to stay in a cabin or something, then that's or pet your tent, then I'm fine with that. That's good. And I have I have what I can offer as a priest. Most importantly, of course, is the holy sacrifice of the Mass, confession if desired or needed, and but I'm not putting any signs out advertising. I'm not looking for people to come on retreat, but if it's on your heart to come, then come. But in the background of this retreat center, it's also I share my own strength, hope, and experience and guidance with people in 12-step recovery. So it is kind of a recovery place, although not a treatment center. And because of that, I make these 3 rules. Or partly because of that, I make these 3 rules. No booze no dope, and no fags. Okay. Just look at the live chat here, just to round things up. Thank you for those who've tuned in. Thank you those who'll be watching later. And again, you can always watch it later at a faster speed. I hope there's something in here. I'm very humbled that most of my videos eventually at approximately 300 viewers, at least touch base into it, and I'm very humbled for that. So let's just see. And I won't read everything out, but I am reading your comments. Divine Intervention Ontario has joined the chat. That's great. And Yahweh, my moderator. I think I've got about 3 moderators, but one of my moderators has pursued religious life, and she's not. She's probably not watching any videos. But Yahweh, thanks for coming in and into the chat there. And we don't really need any moderating really on the chat. I'm not that popular, and there's trolls. I mean, I always tell them, like, thanks for watching, or thanks for commenting, and make sure you watch all the other videos too. But life is short. If you don't like what I'm saying, if I'm triggering you, why would you watch these videos? Christine Bartlett is saying she enjoys listening to Father Stephen's homilies. Yeah, I sent you the link there a few weeks ago, Christine, and I'm glad you're enjoying him. He's very good. I mean, I don't agree with everything he says. You say that about everybody, but I mean, the guy's awake, and he's very impressive in my opinion. I hope to meet him someday in person. Helen says fridge magnet. Helen, big time. Yeah. So let's see. Divine Intervention Ontario had the privilege of meeting the Welland nuns, which started in an elementary school in St. Catherine's Diocese. Yeah. I've met them too. I think they're the Soley sisters. And Divine Intervention is just asking, why was the merge canceled? And I read it out. You can go to, I will link, let me see if I can get the link here. I will link the website, the official website, in the chat right now. Hands off our kids. And there it explains. I read it at the beginning of the live stream. There's speculation that it is because of the the terrible situation in the Holy Land, and that there'd be a concern that maybe there would be a good number of individuals who might go and kind of hijack these are my words, hijack the march and the demonstration for parental rights and the innocence of children, and bring up other issues there. There may have been also, this is all speculation, there may have also been some inside intel, because there was a large contingent of counter protesters yesterday in Ottawa, very large. They were very vocal, and like, I know Camille wants, is not afraid of the confrontation, but yeah, I don't think the timing was right. In other places across the country, it did happen. I did check in on some of those live streams in Toronto, London. I can't remember where else, maybe Calgary or something, but there you go. Okay. So I don't know who's with me still at this point, but whoever is, whoever is, yeah, the counter protesters, they all wear the outward sign of submission. Um, for the most part, they actually seem very angry and very like a lot of, well, they're afraid. They're afraid. They're hurting people. I don't know what else is going on the spiritual level, but they're definitely wounded people. And so let's love them. If anyone's open to talking to you and they're not going to be like giving you the finger and all this other and swearing at you, like I think it's good to talk with them, to be respectful, not to get in an argument, let them speak their, try to understand where they're coming from, that type of thing. But yeah, some of them are looking for trouble, so we don't need that. Okay, Melanie says, sorry, but I'm just catching snippets of this. Yeah, sorry. I can see that my I have really slow internet here. But that's good in a way because I'm a certain distance away from certain towers. Okay, I'm calling it a night. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless each and every one of you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Go in peace, live in the truth, live free. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Don't cancel people, just love them.